here to share the story of a world that's full of light.
Hello world, my name is Heavenly Gotuatukpe Onaolapo. I am 9 years old and I want to speak for someone the world has forgotten. I want to speak for boys. Not the boys we praise when they win a football match. Not the ones we post on their birthdays. But the ones we ignore when they cry. The ones who are hurting in silence across every country of this world. In Nigeria, boys are flogged for showing emotions. In Kenya, they're sexually abused by relatives, but nobody believes them. In South Africa, boys into gang wars by age 10. In Rwanda, orphans of genocide still walk alone, traumatized, angry, and ignored. In Cameroon, boys fight in separatist battles they don't even understand. In Mali, they're child soldiers. In Sudan, they're starving. In Somalia, they're sniffing glue to forget they exist. Boys in Africa are taught to fight, endure, to be tough, but they're not taught to be healed. In India, boys are born in kasu, class, and crushing expectation. At 8, they're in factories. At 10, they're breathing. At 15, many are suicidal. In Pakistan, boys are raped in mosques and homes, and society stays silent. In Bangladesh, they're begging for food, carrying younger siblings on their backs. In Indonesia, they fish in dangerous waters just to bring home a meal. In Thailand, they're sold in sex market, told it's work. In China, boys are raised with such pressure that teen suicide has become common. In Afghanistan, boys dig graves beside the ruins of their school. In Yemen, boys bury their own childhoods every day. No one teaches them to speak, so they grow up believing pain is power and silence is success. In the United States, boys are dying, not just in gun violence, but from untreated depression, fentanyl, and isolation. 1 in 5 teenage boys has considered suicide, but we call them weak if they open up. In Canada, indigenous boys are still recovering from the trauma of residential schools. In Mexico, boys are kidnapped into cartels. They grow up pulling triggers, not pencils. In Honduras, boys are forced to migrate alone or be killed by gangs. We call this the developed world, but the hearts of boys here are undeveloped, unloved, and unheard. In Brazil, favelas raise boys in violence. By age 9, they've seen more dead bodies than birthdays. In Colombia, boys carry drugs through jungles instead of backpacks to school. In Argentina, boys struggle silently with the gender roles that crush their dreams. In Peru, boys in mining towns are worked like mules. In Venezuela, the economic crisis has turned teenage boys into smugglers. South America's boys are vibrant, but buried under a culture that says if you cry, you're weak. In the UK, suicide is now the top cause of death for boys aged 10 to 19. In France, immigrant boys are isolated and profiled. In Germany, boys hide anxiety behind high grades and hard stares. In Russia, boys are sent to war with no goodbye. In Ukraine, teenage boys are burying their own classmates. In Spain, boys are raised in homes where domestic violence is normalized. In Italy, many boys are caught between traditional manhood and modern identity, and they're confused, scared, and angry. Boys in Europe are polished outside, but emotionally shattered inside. Nobody sees them because their pain is quiet. In Australia, boys in rural communities suffer in silence. Mental health services are miles away, so they drink, they gamble, and they die. Aboriginal boys are 4 times more likely to end their lives. In New Zealand, even in beautiful cities, boys are taking their lives quietly because they don't feel heard. In Fiji and Papua New Guinea, boys are raised in cultures that value violence over vulnerability. These boys are drowning, not in water, but in expectation, and nobody is there to rescue them. In Gaza, boys are pulled from under rubble, or maybe never pulled out at all. In Iraq, boys are forced to grow up before they ever play. In Iran, some are jailed for dancing, for protesting, for being themselves. In Saudi Arabia, many boys are taught they must be rigid, emotionless, dominant. In Syria, refugee camps are filled with boys who don't remember what peace feels like. They live, but they're not alive. They breathe, but they've stopped hoping. And still, we call them strong? All over the world, boys are drinking, boys are gambling, boys are cutting themselves, boys are overdosing, boys are dropping out of school, boys are being trafficked, boys are joining gangs, boys are shutting down emotionally, boys are failing, not because they're weak, but because the world told them they had no right to feel. We keep saying protect the girls, and that's right. Yes, it's right. We must protect the girls. But what happens when the same girls we protect end up in the hands of boys who are addicts, abused, hardened, emotionless? Boys who gamble, boys who beat, boys who drink to forget, boys who cheat to feel alive, boys who control because they were never loved, boys who don't talk because silence was their only teacher. What kind of husbands will they become? What kind of fathers will they be? And what kind of world will they build for the next generation? If we only protect the girl child but leave the boy child broken, we are only postponing the abuse. Girls will marry trauma and give birth to pain, and their children will repeat the same story. A circle of crying children ignored by adults again and again and again. That's why we're doing this episode, because we don't want another generation of boys to grow up thinking silence is strength, and we don't want another generation of girls to suffer because the boys they loved were never healed. My name is Heavenly Gotiwatakwe Onaolapo, and I speak for every strong boy who is crying in silence. You are not alone. You are not weak. You are worthy of healing. Before we go on, I want to tell you about someone very special to me. He's my dad. But before he was my father, he was a little boy. A boy who was told not to cry. A boy who worked when he should have been playing. A boy who carried heavy loads for adults who never said thank you. A boy who was shouted at, ignored, beaten, and called strong, even when he was falling apart inside. My dad is a man today, but I've seen it in his eyes. The little boy in him is still healing. He grew up in the slum. He walked barefoot. He slept hungry. He watched his friends bleed and die in the streets. He didn't get to be a child because the world forced him to be a man too soon. And even now, when he talks to me about pain, he sometimes pauses. The words are too heavy. The memories are still fresh. So when my dad speaks today, please don't just hear a man talking. Listen to the little boy who once cried in silence, but found the courage to speak for himself, for me, and for every boy who is still waiting to be heard. Dad, welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Heavenly God, for that introduction. It really touched me more than I can say. You see, I never thought anyone, not even my own daughter, would see that little boy I used to be. The one who walked the street of Makoko barefoot with pains in his stomach and fear in his eyes. I was just a boy, but I carried burdens bigger than my body. I was told not to cry. I need to be sincere with you. I was told to be a man, but I was a 14 child. I'm only pretending to be strong then. Every time I wanted to scream, I swallowed it. Every time I wanted to ask for help, I said, I'm fine. Because boys like me were raised to suffer in silence. Heavenly God. And I suffered. Oh, my daughter, I suffered. I carried loads in the market when my bones were still soft. I served food in restaurants while my mates were in school. I saw blood. I saw boys die. I saw things no child should never seen. And still, nobody asked how I was doing. You see, when you called me out today, not as a man, but as a boy who survived, you reminded me that I have a duty. Not just to speak, but to scream on behalf of every boy who still live in silence. To every parent watching Heavenly God, every teacher, every pastor, every leader, please listen. Boys are not soldiers. They are not machines. They are not mini-men. They are children with hearts, with emotions, with tears that deserves to be seen. Heavenly God. And if we don't listen now, we will raise men who don't know how to love but hurt others because they were never helped themselves. So yes, my daughter, today I am here not just as your host, but as a once forgotten boy who found his voice and promised I will never stop using it. For the boys, for the girls, for every child in this world that has been forgotten.
Dad.
Yeah?
When we think of Africa, people talk about our culture, our strength, our resilience, but nobody talks about the pain we pass on to our boys. In Nigeria, I've seen boys hogging pure water in traffic with trays heavier than their dreams. Some of them are only 5 years old. Their shoulders already look tired. In Ethiopia, little boys run away from home to avoid being married off. Yes, even boys are being pushed into early responsibility. In South Africa, gang recruits boys who are still in primary school, and if they say no, they disappear. In Somalia, they sniff glue, not because it's fun, but because it's cheaper than food and it helps them forget hunger. In DR Congo, nobody talks about the boys who were raped by warlords. They're too ashamed to speak. In Rwanda, after the genocide, many boys became heads of families at age 8 because their parents were gone. In Cameroon, boys are used as weapons in separatist conflict. They hold guns, but they've never held a book. In Mali, they are forced into armed groups in deserts. In Sudan, they're starved, displaced, and forgotten, always referred to as fighters, but never seen as children. And you know what the saddest part is? These boys are called strong, but they were never given the option to just be boys.
Exactly.
We romanticize their survival,
Exactly.
but we ignore their scars. They grow up emotionally numb, violent, detached, and even dangerous. Because when a boy is denied safety, he grows into a man who doesn't know how to give it to others. Dad, you grew up in Africa.
Correct.
You were one of these boys.
Correct.
Why do you think African culture silences boys so much? And how do we begin to unlearn this dangerous idea that pain makes boys into men?
My beautiful daughter, thank you for that powerful question. And I need to be sincere with you. You said something that cuts deep. You said we call African boys strong, but we never give them the chance to be boys. Heavenly God, that's a bitter truth. And as a man who grew up in Africa, in Nigeria, in the ghetto, not in some fancy part, but in the slums of Makoko, Lagos, Nigeria, I know this pain. I didn't just witness it, I lived it every day of my life. We normalize the suffering of boys. Heavenly God, a study by UNICEF find out that 1 in every 5 Nigerian boys is involved in child labor. That's nearly 7.8 million boys carrying crates, hawking goods, or doing street jobs, some as young as 5 years old. I was once one of them. I hawked, I worked in restaurants, I watched friends get hit by cars while selling groundnut in traffic. Heavenly God, some lost their limbs, some lost their lives. And you know what society called us? Strong boys. Street boys. No! We were just children surviving abuse, not living childhood. Heavenly God, let's move to Ethiopia. Due to poverty and war over there, 1.5 million children are displaced, and the majority are boys fleeing forced labor or military recruitment. What's wrong with the world? According to Save the Children, boys aged 8 to 14 are being used as human shields in border conflicts. These boys flee home not to escape rebellion, but to escape their own parents, handing them over to militia. What kind of culture give boys to war before they learn how to write their own names? In South Africa, nearly 60% of gang members are boys aged 10 to 18. According to the Institute of Security Studies, young boys are recruited in schools, parks, where they promise them brotherhood, but giving deaths. These are boys who should be chasing dreams, but are now chasing survivor. Violence is all they know. Numbness is how they cope. And we wonder why these boys grow up to be abusive. It is because the only emotion they were allowed to express was anger. They know nothing else. In Somalia, Heavenly God, Somalia has over 300,000 street children, and glue sniffing is the most common drug among them. A report by Charles D. Holmes found that glue sniffing starts as early as 6 years old. Heavenly God, 6 years old child sniffing glue. Why? Because glue is cheap. It numbs hunger and it kills memories of war. These boys don't want to be high. No, they just don't want to feel anymore. And in Somali culture, no one talks about boys crying. No, crying is shame and numbness is respected. So they inhale pain and exhale silence. What about DR Congo? See, heavenly good. DR Congo has been called the rape capital of the world, but most people assume only girls are affected over there. The Journal of the American Medical Association find that 1 in 5 rape survivors in Eastern Congo is male. But boys don't report it because when they do, they are laughed at or worse, jail for homosexuality. So boys carry their own trauma like a ghost in their body. No justice, no therapy, just shame and silence. And they grow up disconnected from love because love reminds them of what was stolen from them. Heavenly good. In post-genocide Rwanda, many boys were left orphaned. And according to the Rwandan Ministry of Health, more than 40% of male genocide orphans suffer from untreated PTSDs. Boys were forced to raise their own siblings. Some lived in child-headed household, 12 years old, acting like a father. The world praised them, but no one asked, how are you really doing? These boys didn't heal. They only performed strength for survival. And now, some are men with no emotional tools for parenting, passing the pain to their own sons. In Cameroon, the Anglophones crisis has displaced over 900,000 people, including over 400,000 children. Boys are targeted by both the government and the separatists. Many are used as informants, messengers, or fighters. They watch killings, they carry weapons, and the worst part, some are praised as heroes. Heavenly God, how does a 10-year-old process blood in his own hands? How? The UN reports that boys as young as 9 are being forcibly recruited by jihadist group in northern Mali. They are given guns, not guidance, drugs, not discipline. And after they've been used to destroy villages, they are abandoned. Some die in desert, some live, but only physically. Their souls are gone. My daughter, what about Sudan? Over 2 million boys are out of school as we speak due to the conflict and famine. UNICEF warns that malnutrition is killing more boys than bullets over there. These are boys who should be writing exams, but instead they are writing names on graves, and still no one weeps for them because in our culture in Africa, boys are meant to be strong even when they are dying. My daughter, you see what's happening in Africa is not culture, it's not strength, it's a mass neglect of boy child. We are raising boys who can't feel, who can't cry, who can't ask for help, and then we call them toxic when they become men who hurt their women. But I ask, did we ever teach them anything else? No, I was one of them. And the truth is that I'm still healing. And that's why I speak. Because the same culture that almost killed me will kill millions. Even more unless we decide today that boys deserve to be safe. Yes. Boys deserve to cry. Boys deserve to be children, not survivors, not mini husbands, not the representative of your ex.
Dad.
Yeah?
Asia is one of the most beautiful continents in the world.
Correct.
But even with its ancient cultures, fast-growing cities, and strong religions, too many boys are growing up broken. In India, there are boys who work in factories instead of going to school. According to Save the Children, 33 million children are engaged in child labor in India, and the majority are boys. Some of them are as young as 7 years old, carrying bricks, welding metal, or cleaning hotel toilets. And many of them are abused, but they stay silent because poverty taught them that pain is part of life. In Afghanistan, war has taken away everything. Many boys have seen their parents killed in front of them. Some carry guns before they even learn to write. And now, under Taliban rule, education for boys may still exist, but many schools have been bombed and trauma lives in every hallway. In Pakistan, boys are sexually abused in places they were supposed to be safe schools. Madrasas homes. Yet, they're told not to speak because in their culture, being a male victim brings shame, not support. In Bangladesh, boys work in garment factories and shipyards, breathing in toxic fumes that kill them slowly. Some sleep under machines. Others lose their fingers to steel blades. In Indonesia, boys work on fishing boats for 17 hours a day. The ILO reports that many of these boys are trafficked from rural villages. In Thailand, boys are victims of online child sexual exploitation, especially in tourist areas. They're told they're earning money for their families. But what they're really earning is trauma that may never go away. In China, the pressure on boys to succeed is so high that suicide is now the leading cause of death for youth aged 15 to 24. Boys are expected to be perfect, top of the class, obedient, emotionless. In Japan, there's something called hikikomori, boys who shut themselves in the rooms and don't come out for years. It's not because they're lazy, it's because they're broken. The world outside became too much for them. And in the Philippines, boys are used in live-streamed sexual abuse for global predators. Some are only 4 or 5 years old, performing acts they don't understand just to feed their families. And still, the world sees them as strong boys. But Dad, what if they don't want to be strong? What if they want to cry, to play, to be loved, just like everyone else? Dad, why is it so hard for the world to believe that boys in Asia who seem obedient, hardworking, and disciplined are actually suffering? And how can we help Asian families see that emotional pain to boys is real too?
Heavenly God, I've listened to your words, and once again, I'm broken inside, because the way the world ignore the boys is not by beating them with stick, it's by putting expectation on their shoulders until they collapse under the weight of that expectation. And nowhere is that more visible than in Asia, you just mentioned. In India, do you know what they say? They say boys must carry the family name. But what they really mean is carry the family burden. According to the National Crime Records Bureau, more than 9,000 children die by suicide in India every year, and 70% of them are boys. Heavenly God, these are not lazy children. They are not criminals. They are boys who were working in factories by age 8. Boys who were denied affection because you must be strong. Boys who had to hear things like, "Why are you crying? Are you a girl?" And many of them never made it to adulthood. Let's go to the Afghanistan you mentioned earlier. Childhood has been stolen over there. According to Human Rights Watch, thousands of boys have been recruited by armed groups, including the Taliban. Heavenly God, imagine a 9-year-old holding Kalashnikov, learning how to shoot before he learned how to read. This boy lives in fear, bombs, raised, dead. Many are orphans, and when they break down emotionally, they are told it's weakness. So they bury their own pain, and sometimes they grow up to bury others. This is not life. In Pakistan, the culture tells boys to be providers and protectors, but no one teaches them how to protect themselves. A 2018 report by Sahil, a child protection NGO in Pakistan, revealed that over 70% of reported child sexual abuse victims were boys. That's over 2,500 boys in just a year. But those are just the ones who spoke out. Thousands more never said a word, because in that society, a boy who says he was abused is treated like a disgrace. So many of them suffer in silence instead of speaking out. They grow up angry, ashamed, emotionally dead, and no one ever says you were just a child. Nobody. In Bangladesh, over 1.2 million boys work in dangerous jobs, especially in garment factories and ship breaking yards. Just like you said earlier, the ILO reports that some of them work 12 to 14 hours per day, exposed to sharp metal, toxic chemicals, and constant abuse. They are shouted at, they are beaten for small mistake, and they are only paid pennies. Their childhood is traded for survival. They don't dream anymore because dreams are for the rich. Heavenly good. Indonesia has one of the highest rate of child trafficking in the whole of Southeast Asia. Boys from poor villages are sold to work on fishing boats where they remain at sea for years, sometimes without pay. Amnesty International documented stories of a 12-year-old boy that was forced to work 20 hours a day, giving drugs to keep him going. Heavenly good, these boys are beaten if they collapse. And when they are finally released, they don't even know what year it is. Can you imagine that level of emotional damages? Many of them will never heal from it. Thailand is often called a tourist paradise, but beneath that is a dark industry where boys are exploited online and offline. Yes, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime reports that Thailand is a hub for child sexual tourism and live stream abuse. And these boys are often coerced by their own relatives, their own family member. They are told that it's a family duty to earn. And after years of abuse, they stop speaking. Not because they don't want to talk, but because they believe no one is listening. Heavenly God, the world is going mad. In China, the pain of boys is silent but deadly. A study published in the Lancet Psychiatry revealed that suicide is the leading cause of death among Chinese youth, with boys aged 15 to 24 being most at risk. Why? Because boys are raised to perform in school, in family, in society. And if you cry, you shame your family. If you fail, you lose your worth. There's no space for emotions, no tolerance for weakness. So the boys suppress, they fake smiles, and some don't even survive it. Japan has over 1 million ikikomori, mostly young men who lock themselves in their own room for years, refusing to come out. Why? The pressure of society to be perfect, polite, emotionless has break them completely. So they retreat into silence. Some don't see another human being for up to 5 to 10 years. And the saddest part, their parents think it's just lazy. But these boys are not lazy. They are wounded. They were never given emotional tools, only academic pressure. And now they are lost in a war they can't even face. In the Philippines, poverty has led to a booming market of online sexual exploitation of children. A 2022 report by the Department of Justice revealed that over 279,000 children have been victims, and a large percentage are boys. This is tragic. These boys are live streamed, abused on camera for predators watching from other countries everywhere around the world. And because their families are paid, no one calls it abuse. These boys grow up confused, angry, emotionally scared. They don't know what love is anymore. And the world just keeps scrolling. Normal. Heavenly good. Asia is full of culture, respect, discipline. But those values, when not guided by compassion, becomes a weapon. See, boys are not machines. They are not trophies. They are not tiny fodder. I keep saying it. They are children with heart, with tears, with fear. And when we force them to swallow their pain, they either explode or disappear. What the world sees as a strong Asian boys, me, Noah, I see it as a broken children dressed in obedience, just like in Africa. And if we don't change that, the world will raise brilliant boys who can solve equations but not relationships. Boys who can win medals but not maintain marriages. Boys who can build empires but destroy their own families because nobody taught them how to be whole.
Dad.
Yeah?
When people hear North America, they think of big houses, nice schools, clean parks. But behind those beautiful pictures are boys crying when no one can hear. In the United States, the most dangerous thing to be is a boy growing up without help. Over 14 million children live in poverty in the US, and most of them are boys from minority homes. According to the CDC, suicide is the second leading cause of death for boys aged 10 to 24 in America. That means boys are killing themselves, quietly, even while their phones are full of friends and their schools are full of people. In black communities, boys are seen as threats, not children. 12-year-olds are stopped by police, beaten, and even killed just for being boys in hoodies. In white communities, boys are told to succeed, perform, dominate, and when they can't live up to those standards, they crash. In rural towns, boys are overdosing on fentanyl, heroin, and prescription pills. And yet, nobody asks what they're running from. In Canada, things look better on the outside, but indigenous boys are suffering quietly.
Exactly.
Many of them are still dealing with the trauma of residential schools where children were beaten, starved, and stripped of their culture. Today, indigenous boys are 5 times more likely to die by suicide than non-indigenous children. And in schools, they're still treated as outsiders, still stereotyped, still left behind. In Mexico, boys are being pulled into drug cartels before they turn 13. According to the Mexican government, over 30,000 children are now involved with armed criminal groups, some as hitmen, some as lookouts, some as smugglers. These are boys who once loved cartoons and soccer, now killing people to survive. In Honduras and Guatemala, boys are running for their lives. Some travel thousands of miles alone to the US border, hoping to escape gang violence. Many are kidnapped, abused, or trafficked along the way. And those who make it are locked in cages, treated as criminals. Dad, this isn't just poverty. It's emotional abandonment. It's trauma without therapy.
Yes.
It's grief without comfort. And yet, the world still says boys will be boys. No, boys will be broken unless somebody decides to finally help them heal. Dad, why do you think so many boys in America and Canada, even with wealth and technology, are still falling apart mentally? Is it possible that pain isn't just about poverty, but about something deeper that no one wants to talk about?
Heavenly God, you just said something that hit me hard again. You said this isn't just about poverty, it's emotional abandonment. And you are 100% correct. Because in North America, boys are not just dying because they are hungry for food. They are dying because they are starving for connection, starving for safety, starving for truth, starving for someone to say, I see you and I don't need you to be strong. I just need you to be okay. In the US, people look at these boys and say, but they have foods, they have iPad, they have good schools. What's the problem? But that's the problem. Pain, dear, wear a mask. A smiling quarterback on Friday night who cries in the bathroom after games. A straight-A student who overdosed on pills because pressure became his prison. Heavenly God, that country has turned masculinity into a competition. Be the smartest, be the strongest, be the richest. And if you can't, you disappear into addiction. According to CDC, 1 in 4 boys aged 12 to 17 in America has been diagnosed with a mental disorder, but only a fraction are treated. Because the moment a boy says, I'm depressed, it's labeled soft. So instead, they pick up vapes, pick up guns, pick up girls, or they shut down completely. The system doesn't care about emotional healing. It just wants boys who will behave, obey, and not shoot up a school. And that's not healing. That is damage control. I'm telling you, that is not what they should be doing. What about the forgotten wounds of indigenous boys in Canada? The boys that suffer the most are the ones the country tried to erase. Heavenly God, the indigenous boys between the 1880s and 1990s, more than 1,500 indigenous children were taken from their families and placed in residential schools. Many were beaten, raped, starved, and stripped of their identity. Now, their sons and grandsons are walking through life with a legacy of pain nobody wants to discuss. You see, the suicide rate for indigenous boys is 3 to 6 times higher than the national average. Imagine that. You see them walking the street or locked in juvenile center. But behind every crime is a cry that was ignored. Yes, that's the truth. They aren't violent by nature. They were raised in a country that denied their humanity, then left them to figure out how to be men with no fathers, no rituals, no healing. See, Canada gives the image of peace, but its history created boys who don't know where they belong. And that's wrong. Let's go to Mexico. Some boys over there are recruited by cartels before they even finish primary school. These aren't just poor boys, so no, these are boys who were never protected. According to the Mexican Network for Children's Rights, over 30,000 children are now part of organized crime in that country. Do you know what that means, Heavenly God? These are children who have killed, children who have buried friends, children who sleep with one eye open, and nobody's asking them what trauma pushed them there. In some communities, violence is passed down like inheritance. Their fathers died in gangs, their uncles were killed, and now they are expected to take that same road as a child. Not because they want to, but because it's all they've ever seen in their life. And the world called them criminals. Yes, the world called them criminals. But I call them the abandoned sons. In Honduras and Guatemala, these two countries are some of the most dangerous places for boys on earth. Gang violence, sexual abuse, and extreme poverty have pushed tens of thousands of boys to migrate alone, to walk from Central America all the way to the US border. Heavenly God. Some are 8 or 9 years old, carrying a bag and a broken heart. They climb on trains, sleep in forests, dodge traffickers, and if they make it to the border, you will think safety begins. No! Many are detained, caged, stripped of their own dignity, cry for their mothers. They are treated like criminals. These are boys who didn't come looking for comfort. They came looking for life, and the world still dares to call them illegal immigrants. No child is illegal. The evil system made them so. Heavenly God. People think boys in America and Canada are okay because they have clothes, they have gadgets and education. But the truth is that pain wears different clothes in different countries. In some places such as Africa, it looks like a barefoot, hungry-looking child. In North America, it wears Nike sneakers, has a TikTok account, and sleeps in rooms filled with video games, but feels completely alone. They are praised for achievement, that's the truth, but ignored when they break down. And so they become good at pretending. They smile in front of others, then they cry in their cars. They get girlfriends, but they don't know how to express love. They grow into men who are successful at work, but failure at life. Because the emotional hunger doesn't go away. It just shows up in different ways. In North America, they've raised boys to function, not feel. And that's why so many are dying, not from bullets, but from isolation. Heavenly God.
Yes.
So when you ask what's really breaking boys over there, I will tell you it's not poverty. It's not lack of opportunity. It's the absence of love. It's the way we raise boys to hide everything soft, to lock up their truth, to bury their heart, until one day they either explode or disappear. I was once that boy, and today I say it clearly. A boy doesn't become a man by holding back his tears. He becomes a man when he knows who he is, feels deeply, loves fully, and heals completely. It's boys we keep crying. And not until Americans begin to raise men like that, even when no one is listening.
Dad.
Yeah?
When I think of South America, I think of dancing, football,
Yeah.
colorful cities,
Correct.
and people full of passion.
Exactly.
But beneath all that color, so many boys are growing up too fast. In Brazil, the favelas raise boys on fear. The Brazilian firm on public safety say a teenager is killed every hour in Brazil, and most of them are boys. Boys who just wanted to play football but got caught in crossfire. Boys who carry guns before they ever carried books. In Colombia, they call it peace now, but many boys are still being recruited by armed criminal groups. According to Human Rights Watch, over 16,000 children have been used by guerrilla or paramilitary forces. These boys are taught to kill, to smuggle, to disappear, and when they come back home, if they ever do, they don't recognize themselves anymore. In Venezuela, hunger has made it normal for boys to sell drugs, join gangs, or even sell their own bodies just to feed their families. Boys are standing at traffic lights, wiping windshields and begging not for coins, but for survival. In Argentina,
we're here to share the story of a world that's full of light. From different places, faces, we're all